Throughout the course of World War II, Polish and British cryptographers secretly worked toward breaking down Axis radio communications that were encrypted by the Enigma machine. Their efforts ultimately shortened the war and saved millions of lives. In 1918, a German firm by the name of Scherbius and Ritter patented a machine that would eventually create the most complex code known to man, the Enigma. The machine was designed to create an ever-changing substitution cipher by using randomly shifting electric wiring that was placed onto several rotors. The operator could place 3 to 5 rotors in different slots, then adjust each rotor to a specific letter of the alphabet found on the outer rim. Once set up, the operator would enter a regular message, and the Enigma's rotors would scramble each individual letter through a unique cipher alphabet. In total, the most basic Enigma could be set in over 17,500 rotor positions, with each position containing a completely new key for encryption. Although initially targeted at civilian audiences, the Enigma was adapted for use in the German Army and Navy in 1928. One early addition to the machine in 1930 introduced a plugboard system, which further encoded messages by switching any 2 already scrambled letters. The plugboard, in addition to several other developments, eventually allowed the Enigma to have over 159 quintillion possible keys. Harry Hinsley, former Bletchley Park cryptanalyst and historian, wrote, "By the outbreak of war, as a result of these modifications, the Germans judged that they had rendered it safe even in the event of capture, and they had indeed made it into a cipher system that presented formidable obstacles to the cryptanalyst. Instructions for arranging and setting the wheels could be changed as frequently as every 24 hours. Anyone not knowing the setting was faced with the problem of choosing from 150 million solutions." At this point, even if enemy cryptographers had the original and the encrypted messages and their own Enigma machine, they wouldn't have been able to reproduce the key due to the sheer amount of combinations to test. This system had only one noticeable flaw. Any letter could never be encoded as itself unless it was repeated once for each possible key in the same message, a nearly impossible occurrence. After distributing the newly modified Enigmas and keys, the German army began to rely on the machines for radio communications between forces that were unreachable by telegram, such as U-boats and tank divisions. Most countries were confused by the new incomprehensible messages, but only one gave them any focus: Poland Cipher Bureau, which had been instrumental in decoding German communications in World War I, lost the ability to decrypt enemy radio messages on July 15, 1926. Poland was motivated by the fear of imminent invasion, so it focused all available resources on obtaining and decoding the Enigma. Within a few months, Polish cryptanalysts had acquired a copy of the commercial Enigma and were hard at work trying to replicate the military adjustments. Marian Rejewski, one such cryptanalyst, created an equation to determine the military Enigma's specific wiring without ever seeing the machine. Unfortunately, he had made some incorrect assumptions about its internal design, which ceased all decryption progress for months. Just before reaching their breaking point, Polish intelligence obtained a set of keys from Hans Thilo Schmidt, an internal member of the German intelligence operation. With these keys, the Polish were able to discover methods for arriving at the daily keys, rotor settings, their sequences, the connections in the plugboard, and even the positions of the rings, all within 4 months. Throughout the rest of the 1930s, Germany continued adding new features and complications, which the Poles in turn decoded with ingenious mathematical equations. In late 1938, Poland invested in a new type of decoding machine, known as the bomba. They each weighed 1 ton, containing 12 miles of internal wiring spread out among 36 replica Enigma machines. These new machines tested each individual Enigma key in only 2 hours, selecting likely settings for the cryptanalysts to check on their replica Enigma. Fearing invasion, Poland quickly shared all its research with French and British operatives. The operatives were astonished, finding that the Poles were a decade ahead of any other nation. Britain started selecting a new team of mathematicians and linguists to decrypt the Enigma's messages, but they were still unprepared when war broke out. After Germany's blitzkrieg invasion of Poland in 1939, radio communication became even more vital to German operations. The term blitzkrieg, literally meaning lightning war, was a strategy based on speed of attack through speed of communications. Because telegram lines were difficult to set up and easy to disrupt, the German army relied on Enigma encoded messages to transmit radio messages quickly and effectively. In 1940, Britain gathered 100 mathematicians at a temporary station in Bletchley Park to break the daunting German codes. Alan Turing, one such mathematician, believed that any mathematical work done by a human could be adapted into a machine, and he focused on developing logic systems for a new decoding machine named after the Polish bomb. Although very eccentric, he soon rose through the ranks, becoming a valuable member to his team in Bletchley Park. He took advantage of cribs, keywords that appeared in every message, using them to decode messages even more quickly. He also discovered patterns that different Enigma operators used when encoding messages, which helped identify who's operating the machine. Unfortunately, German U-boats and warships used a different set of keys and enigmas, which allowed them to have unsupervised communications, jeopardizing Allied naval operations. British and American forces made several costly attempts to capture German naval key manuals and newly upgraded Enigma machines, but didn't succeed until 1941. After obtaining these keys and enigmas, Allied powers were able to decipher German messages and safely deliver supplies wherever needed. German officers fully trusted the Enigma, and this trust allowed the Allies to outmaneuver Axis forces in Africa, Europe, and the Atlantic without drawing suspicion. For the rest of the war, Allied forces were able to intercept and decode thousands of messages, all while maintaining the facade of ignorance. The information gained as a result of British and Polish cryptographic efforts was used to anticipate Axis movements, locate German U-boats, and develop operations to quickly end the war. E.T. Williams, an Allied intelligence officer, wrote that very few armies ever went to battle better informed of their enemy. This vast amount of information also revolutionized military intelligence. Williams wrote, "From 1939 to 1942, intelligence was the Cinderella of the staff, and information about the enemy was frequently treated as interesting rather than valuable." After the war, military intelligence gained an unprecedented value, and nations scrambled to find new unbreakable codes. British intelligence was also instrumental in the planning of D-Day, because it was the only credible source of information on the German army's position. After the war, British bombs were adapted into early computers and calculators, such as the machines used by NASA in the space race. Mathematics also started to provide viable solutions to problems that were previously reserved for linguists and other scientists. Turing's research into algorithms that mimicked human logic led to early theories on artificial intelligence. Unfortunately for the British cryptanalysts, they were forced to keep their accomplishments private and weren't publicly recognized until 1970. Britain wanted to continue observing Enigma traffic, even distributing captured machines among its former colonies. Turing, among others, was not alive to receive this belated recognition. He had committed suicide in 1954 after being shut out of his research because of his homosexuality. Over the course of World War II, British and Polish cryptanalysts strove to break the Enigma code and consistently found new gaps in the seemingly impenetrable barrier. Their efforts saved millions of lives and shortened the war by nearly 2 years.